Everyone, welcome. Steve from the Audio Files. Thank you so much for joining me today. This is going to be a good one. I have none other than Michael Fremer from trackingangle.com on today. Great discussion about everything. Can't wait to get started. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscription button. It helps me out a ton. And if you're in the Vancouver area, come down and see us. The Hi-Fi Center, incredible gear like you can see here behind me. 433 Carroll, Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, right in the heart of downtown Gastown. Now let's get to it. My chat with Michael Fremer. Everyone, Steve Westman from the Audio Files. I have Tracking Angle's Michael Fremer, or if you might know him as his alter ego, Dizzy, from his recent YouTube video. Dizzy or Michael Fremer, how are you?
I'm good.
We haven't. That's good. Happy New Year. We haven't spoken. It was July the 15th, so it's just over 6 months ago, almost to the day that we chatted. And this was sort of the pre-DSD gate of MoFi at the time, and we were not sure where this was going to go. And I guess a lot of courses happened even a few days after our video and chat appeared. And now
lots of stuff happened between the time our video appeared. Lots of ridiculous stuff happened, but
lots of stuff. And so I know we were chatting just at the top before we got on. Just yesterday, there has been an unopposed motion by, I guess, both MoFi and the plaintiffs to settle this class action. I'm not sure if you're aware of that, if you read about that. No. I did a little bit of digging. I have some sources that I've been talking to about this as well. So maybe I'll fill you in for once. That's kind of
okay, cool. But wait 1 second.
What?
When you first contacted me about this whole kerfuffle, you said to me that in a few days, a MoFi employee was going to spill the beans about what was going on. And I said, why would the person do that? Why would they lose their job, risk their job? Did that person ever come out, or
not that I know of? This is all rumor.
You know who's the name of the person?
Well, no, I don't know the name of the person. No.
Who told you about this? Who told you about this?
Oh my God. There's so many people I talk to. There's different writers out there. There's people out there that basically have, just like anything, all these sleuths that go on there.
No, I don't. No, I don't know just like anything. That's why I did not write about this at first. Yeah. All I heard was the rumor that you started or spread.
I didn't start any rumors. Don't get me.
Okay, you told me about it, and you said in a couple of days someone is going to come out from MoFi and expose this whole thing.
Well, I assume that's what I heard as well. I just thought it would be maybe
who did you hear it from?
I heard it from some writers and some people from the different sites and stuff like that. So
yeah. Well, see, that's why I didn't say anything about it, because that's
I didn't have. I mean, the source is the source, right? I mean, I think I didn't come out with anything. I didn't want to get in trouble. So I mean, I didn't want to say. I thought.
Yeah, I don't mind I got into a lot of trouble, but I don't mind getting in trouble.
I don't like getting into trouble. I'm Canadian. Us Canadians like to stay.
Hey, well, I'll tell you. So I heard about it from you, and I didn't write anything about it because I didn't. What is that? You could tell me anything, and I don't know. Yeah. So I didn't write anything. And so then I guess it was Michael 45 in Germany. Mm-hmm. He first spilled it, and then Mike Esposito spilled it. And then all these people came to my side and accused me of covering for MoFi. See, I'm on the gravy train and I get the free MoFi records, and therefore I'm not going to say anything. This is so ridiculous, because that's not what happened.
There were just so many rumors prior to the big announcement of MoFi. I thought MoFi's marketing department would come out and say something. I mean, that's what the rumor I really heard, and that never happened. And then, of course, the marketing department happened to be Mike Esposito doing the interview. I think that's sort of where it went. There's a lot.
Do you want to hear more back? Do you want to hear more backstory from my perspective?
Yeah, well, that's why we're here. I want to hear this.
So once this before it really came out from MoFi, after Mike Esposito said on his channel that they were doing this, I don't know what his source was, but whatever it was probably similar to your source. It was, who knows where it came from. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't get a straight answer from anybody. So I went on and I said, I contacted Jim Davis at MoFi. And I said, this rumor is out there. You have to get on top of this. Whatever it is, if it's true, you got to say something. If it's not, you got to say something. You can't let this fester. And he got back to me. He said, there's going to be a video made in Sebastopol very shortly, and you'll see it, and we'll explain everything. And I said, okay. The next thing I know, I hear that Mike is going over there to do this interview.
Right.
And look, he's a record store owner. We had a conversation yesterday. I'm not his enemy. I'm not trying to fight with him. And once I heard that he was going up and doing this, I said to Jim, I think you're out of your mind. I said, I could name, I don't want to do it. I don't want to go there. I could name 5 experienced journalists who do interviews in the Bay Area who could go up there and conduct a proper interview. And so I don't understand what this is. Why, if you want to send him too, that's fine. But I don't understand why you would put this on him. And so, as it turns out, as we found out later, what happened was this was done without the head of the company knowing about it, which is just bizarre. And I'm telling you the truth. So and truth is more important to me than me getting in trouble or whatever. So what ended up happening is somebody contacted Mike to go up there and do this, with Jim Davis not knowing about it.
Yeah.
Then when the story got written about in Jeff Edger's piece in the Washington Post, which annoyed the hell out of me for reasons that we can go into, he said, well, what Jim got stuck at the rental car counter,
right?
Couldn't get. Listen, man, if the head of the company makes a phone call and says, hey, nothing until I get up there, that would have happened. Anyway, the whole thing was a cluster F, in my opinion. And at any rate, I said that anyway, let's just say that. So that's what happened. And then Mike went up and did his interview. And to me, it was not a great interview. He did the best he could as someone who had never been in a mastering suite and someone who had never conducted a proper interview. It was fine. It could have been a lot better because a journalist with experience would have engaged these 3 guys and not let them sit there and look really sheepish, which is what ended up happening. And they shouldn't have been the ones to do the talking. And the whole thing was not well done. Okay. And that's my opinion. And I'm leaving it at that.
Let's leave it at that. Yeah.
But I will say that, and then people said, oh, well, you said their records were great and you got fooled and you can't tell the difference between analog and digital. Well, that's not really true, because I gave a few of those records bad reviews, not knowing what the problem was. And if you go back and read my review of Love Forever Changes, I didn't give it a good review. They were really angry at me for that one. It just didn't sound right to me. I didn't know why. The Jeff Beck Truth album, I gave a good review to, because that sounded great. However, I did say in my review that the original British pressing has an organic quality to it that theirs does not have. So, that's another thing that annoys me. That people say you couldn't tell the difference. The first record that was done that way, without anybody knowing about it, was Tony Bennett, I Left My Heart in San Francisco.
What year was that?
That was 2011, I think.
But here's the thing, though, and just to stop you there,
Yeah,
if you recall, I mean, MoFi started really using DSD in 1997, 1998 with their first Tom Petty Full Moon Fever. That's the first time they used DSD to put that album onto a CD.
On a CD, okay, on a CD. I'm saying on a record.
But I'm just saying that they started experimenting in 1998. So
sure,
I mean, this goes back a long ways.
I've heard other stories that nobody will confirm, that when they got the Beatle catalog, which was many years ago in the 80s, they cut from tape, but at some point they had to give the tape back, and so they made an F1 digital copy, and the later versions, the later numbered ones, were cut that way. I don't know, but that's the rumor I heard. Rumor.
Here's another rumor. So, I mean, all of Stan Ricker's stuff, I mean, he used the master tapes, but made a copy of the master and cut from that copy. I've heard that rumor.
Copies are fine. I have no problem with cutting from copies.
I think that's probably what happened to make this, this basically because you want to save that tape, right? So they need to make a copy of it.
That's a lot of tape copies to make of the whole box set, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. The point is, the whole thing was mishandled. And and the 2 things I will say, if people think those sound great, fine. Some do, some don't. The equalization changes that they make to records are a much bigger problem for me. and they consistently do that.
Well, those are like going back to the Smiley EQ stuff that MoFi
That's right.
wanted Ricker to do. I don't think Ricker had any choice in it. I think that's something that MoFi wanted Ricker to do at that time.
We don't know, and they continue to do that. If you listen to their version of "Couldn't Stand the Weather," Stevie Ray Vaughan, compared to the one Chad cut from the tape, you can hear it. In fact, I brought that to the Pacific Audio Fest and I played it for Mazzy, and I played both for people, and some people like that better, and some people more honest. And Mazzy said, "Oh, it sounds like they pushed the loudness button on their receiver." And I said, "That's exactly what happens when you push the loudness button on some receivers. You get a boost in bass and treble, and that's on that tape." So, and Blood on the Tracks is the same way, and a few others. So they can, and now I'm their enemy. You know, that you saw that one video that guy made about Michael, an executive at MoFi does not like Michael Fremer.
I watched that one. I watched that a few times because that was one of the funniest ones I've ever seen. So that was really a good one. Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, and it's sad. It's too bad because I've given them a lot of good reviews. I've been supportive of that company since Herb Belkin's days, you know, but whatever.
So, I mean, here's the thing. Okay, you've been doing this for 50 plus years, right? Reviewing records, right?
No, doing what for 50 years? For 50
well, I don't know. How long you've been reviewing records? Because you have a lot of original records, right?
Yeah.
I mean, here's how I see things with someone like...
Let me ask you, you said how long you've been doing it. Yeah. I started writing about vinyl in 1969 when I was in law school. That's okay. So that's
over 50 years. We're talking. Right. Yeah, I know.
I think I look damn good for my age.
Well, I turned 50 this year. I'm the same age as Dark Side of the Moon. So there you go.
I don't remember 50. Okay.
Were you drunk?
No, just old.
It was the mushrooms or the psychedelics. So what I was going to ask you is that because you grew, you basically your whole life, you listened to a lot of these original, first edition pressings back in their day, you have that in your mind, it's etched in your head. Then you go and you get these reissues from the different audiophile pressings or companies. Does that somehow in a way skew sort of your view or of what you're listening to or not?
No, because I know that a lot of those originals were great, but a lot of them have the bass rolled off because they were done on purpose because the kids' turntables couldn't reproduce all that. Like the Blue Notes. I bought original Blue Notes when they came out. And if you play those compared to the Tone Poet ones, I'm sorry, people gush over those originals and they love them. And they say, well, this is what Rudy wanted. No, it's not what Rudy wanted. It's what Rudy didn't want. Rudy had to cut the bass off and boost the 90 hertz and compress the dynamics so those records would play on the cheap turntables that the people that were the customers of Blue Note Records back then. Customers of Blue Note Records back then were not the well-to-do people now that buy these records, that buy these, Blue Note catalog, the whole catalog for, $50,000, $100,000. They were basically, ghetto people, a lot of them buying these Blue Notes. And so Rudy had to modify what was on those tapes to make it cuttable and playable. So it's not what Rudy wanted. What Tone Poet is doing now is what Rudy wanted, actually. People like those compressed records, which have very noisy vinyl relative to now, fine, that's good, but don't make it a fetish show for it. Well,
Joe Harley and who is producing the new issues, and of course Kevin Gray, who we both know and friends with as well. I mean, I don't think they mess much with the masters as well. They don't want to lose any of the bottom end on that stuff either, right? So I think that it sounds, I mean, I have a lot of the Tone Poets. I'm really impressed with not only the sound, of course, but the quality for it you're getting. I just ordered the new Bobby Hutcherson one that just come out of the San Francisco. I'm going to get that one next week. I'm excited about that. That should be a great sounding album.
It's hard to keep up with those. I buy a lot of them and they send me some. I'm happy to say they send me some, but I buy a lot of them.
Yeah.
And I can't keep up with it, and I can't listen to that many. How can you listen to all those records? I mean, you can't.
I can. I mean, I got wife, family, and everything like that. So I was going to ask you too. The Rolling Stones mono box. So we have the new one that just came out, or I guess it's come out now. Do you have a box?
I haven't played it yet. I do.
So
have it.
Sean McGee mastered that one. It's a brand new remaster that he just cut last year, and it's from a Bob Ludwig high res file.
Which is what the original one was too.
Yeah. Or high resolution file. Yeah.
And I don't remember who cut the original. I've got it here. I can pull it out. Do you know who cut the original one? I could go
I
back.
don't know. Yeah, I don't know. But I'm just hearing rumors that this one sounds a heck of a lot better. And I know, I mean, if you're going back to Sean McGee, who recut the Revolver mono last year for the box set, he upped his gear a little bit, so that might be the reason for it sounding a little bit more dynamic.
I think that version, that's the best mono version. That mono version is better than the one that was done on the original box.
I agree.
Box. It's noticeably, it's better.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree with you there. I mean, I think he did a great job as well. And I talked to Sean. I don't know if you ever caught that. I did a Sean interview, and he was a nice guy. I mean,
Very
I think
nice guy.
yeah, I really enjoyed the conversation, and really fascinating as well. Now, getting back to it, I was mentioning that MoFi, they're possibly doing a settlement now with this big class action. The first two plaintiffs that basically filed are here, basically agreeing to this. There's what we call it's like a coupon settlement. So MoFi is basically saying this: number one, you can get a full refund plus any shipping and taxes. Number two, you can keep your records and receive either a refund equal to 5% of the applicable records of the purchase price, or number three, you can get a coupon for 10% of any applicable record of the purchase price towards other of Music Direct's or MoFi's products. So that's called a coupon settlement, which I find interesting as well. The plaintiffs also in here, that would be there's two guys, will each also receive $10,000 as a settlement. And their lawyer, and this is where it gets a little sticky because it hasn't been certified, and there's other lawyers involved. And you studied law, and I think you know this. There's other big firms that probably want money. So their lawyer is asking for $290,000 in legal fees.
Expenses, sure, that's
right.
where the money goes.
Well, here's the thing. But here's the thing: there's other lawyers, and there was 3 or 4 other class action lawsuits with other lawyers involved from probably big New York firms. They're going to want to cut of this. So I don't know if this is actually going to get certified in court just because of this.
I think it will, only because what are the damages really? It's easy. You can say I got ripped off. It's not what I thought I was getting. They fibbed about it, whatever. But what are your real damages? Just what the cost you paid for the record, like what those guys are settling on, is really what the damage is.
It's the resale. I think if you're a collector, right? These flippers, as they say, right? The flippers. So you buy it at 125, and now, for instance, let's give you a great example. It's Janis Joplin's Pearl, One Step. Okay, came out at 125. I mean, I don't think you could probably, if you were to sell it, you could probably sell it for $50 if you're lucky.
That didn't sound good. So,
but I mean, the thing is, I think that's irrelevant what it's worth in the flipping or in the secondary market, right? I mean, that shouldn't make a difference.
You buy records. If you buy records as an investment instrument, sorry, that's your problem, and MoFi is not responsible for that. And I'm sure that couldn't be part of the settlement. The settlement is you get your money back. You didn't get what you paid for, and you get a little bit of a bonus to make you feel better, and that's all you're really.
So what do you think of this proposal that I've just given you, the 3 different options? You think most will go with that?
Fair.
It's
fair. This is not going to be a multi-million-dollar suit, and if it's a class action suit, there have to be more than 2 guys by definition.
Well, there must
be more people.
There's one guy, and then obviously others as well. There's other class action suits as well. But I'm just looking at the one that's, and I think what is not clear is who approached whom to get this going in terms of this being in an agreement between the two. I'd be curious to know if MoFi approached the plaintiffs.
Their lawyers talk to these people.
And I found it interesting.
Lawyer talk to my lawyer.
I got a lawyer, so look out. But they're looking at so it's between March 19th, 2007 and July 27th, 2022 are the dates. They're basically, the lawyers are saying that this it wasn't analog only products that you sold. And I found this interesting. This is an interesting number, and you might know this, but from that time period, it looks like MoFi sold 630,000 OMRs and One Steps in that time period.
How many?
630,000. Does that surprise you?
No.
Yeah.
They do very well.
That's a big number.
It is a big number, and they do very well. They sold a lot of records.
They sold a lot of records.
And people that like them, I've liked some of them. I thought that the Miles Davis catalog, even though it was from DSD, it sounds great. And it sounds great because the originals, for some reason, there was a run of Columbia in the mid 60s, right around when the quintet records are coming out. They don't sound that good. And then it got better later, and it was better earlier. So they were able to get their DSD copy and make a good sounding record out of it.
Anyway, I was just looking too. It's 40,000 defendants, 20,000 direct purchasers, and 20,000 indirect purchasers on this class action.
That's a lot, actually. So if you make that deal, if you give $10,000 to 20,000 people, that's a sum of money. I wouldn't mind that sum of money. Would you? No. And
of course,
the lawyers will make the most money. It's always the case in class action suits. So I never indulge in them anymore. It's nonsense.
Well, that's why I'm asking you here. I mean, in it says attorney's fees and litigation expense. It says here the plaintiff's counsel will ask for an award of $290,000. I mean, there's other attorneys involved. I don't think the other attorneys are going to be too happy if this guy gets $290,000. That's why I don't think this will get certified.
Yeah, I don't really care on every level because I'm not involved in it, and I wish them well. Yeah, they made a mistake. They really made a mistake. I mean, not by doing it, but by not. I knew that they were cutting from copies of tapes when they said original master tapes. That was true of the Miles Davis. No, that one they may have had a copy.
No, Miles Davis is a DSD.
Yeah. So, is it? I thought it wasn't.
No, it was a DSD. It was DSD.
But it's from a different mix. That was Mark Wilder's mix,
right?
Which sounds fundamentally different than the one that Bernie Grunman did from the 3-track master. Mm-hmm. So Bernie cut directly from the 3-track master and mixed it live in his place, and that's a different sounding record. So, but that's fine. The first one that came in was the Tony Bennett. I can go back up to my shelf right now if you want me to, and I have the original right next to the MOFI. And it's there because when it came out, I played it and I said to myself, there's something really wrong with this. This is not right. I'm not going to review it. I'll put it back on the shelf. And I just forgot about it and never got to it. And those two records are still sitting side by side because what I heard was the reverb behind Tony's voice on the original is in a different space.
Oh, wow.
Than on theirs. Now, that could be compression. I don't know what it was, but it just sounded wrong. So it doesn't matter if you like DSD transfers from vinyl because of whatever it is, then fine. If you like it, that's great. I reviewed their Dire Straits, the first Dire Straits album, Double 45, and I gave it a good review because it had a lot of punch to it. It was good. Yeah. I forgot. People are going to say, "Well, you forget all these records you get." I had the 2011 or 2010 Tom Beery produced first Dire Straits album that Bernie Grunman cut from the tape. Mm-hmm. And I brought that with me, in fact, to Oslo when I went to Oslo to do turntable setup seminars for people there. And which reminds me, we got to talk about the collapse of vinyl sales. So
that's at the very end. We'll talk about that.
And I played it for people, and they all heard that the original, that the Bernie cut had this organic beauty to the guitar, to the dobro, or whatever he was playing, and that theirs had a crunchiness to it. But whatever.
Here's the thing, though, right? So, I mean, for instance, these reissue companies, let's say they hire Bernie. I mean, the reissue company is the one that's going to say, "Hey, Bernie, we want more EQ. We want more bass." I mean, in a way, Bernie is going to basically do what he's told to do by, with the people he's contracted with, right?
The companies don't do that. The companies at this point, most of those people have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
They have liaisons who deal with this. So it may be. So for Joni Mitchell, it was this guy Patrick Milligan who oversees her catalog and oversees all the issues of things that never came out before the Carnegie Hall recording.
Right.
The first box set was great, and I wrote, and that sounded great. This Asylum box set, it just didn't sound very good to me. And I wrote that, and I took a lot of guff for that. People were all over me, but it didn't sound that good to me. And I pulled out the 2010 ones again, or 2011, the ones that Tom Beery supervised, where Chris Bellman cut from tape. And this was cut from tape also. But for whatever reason, Chris Bellman's cut in 2011 of Court and Spark and the other ones just, and Hissing on Summer Lawns, which we used to call Pissing on Someone's Lawn. And I was already graduated from college when we made that joke, but those sounded much better for whatever reason. You don't know why. And I had to write what I heard, and that's what I did.
That reminds me. So now with MOFI, I'll go back one more time. They've got a bunch of one-steps that supposedly are coming out this year. The entire Van Halen catalog, of course, Joni Mitchell. My thoughts are, I don't think they're going to sell out for long, long periods of time.
I don't know. you've already got the blue cat, the blue box, the box with blue in it out, which is a very good sounding box. If people are going to buy it one more time, I don't think so.
Or I think the blue was just reissued by either Bellman or Grunman not long ago, like last year. Was it
That
last
was
year?
in the box.
Yeah.
That was the box.
Well,
They were preset.
There's just a single one that's out too. I just saw it recently.
From that same mastering, and that sounds good. And I wrote it, and Bernie cut the original, and these sound better. Bernie cut all the originals back in the day, and this box set that Bernie also cut sound much better.
Here's a question too. I know Chris Bellman works with Bernie at Bernie Grunman Mastering Studios. Right. Now, does Bellman use the exact same technology as what Bernie uses to cut, or they have different studios? Do you know?
It's the same cutting system.
Okay.
But Chris has his own room, and I believe he does his own thing. But yeah, I asked that question of people when this came out. I said, why does Chris's sound so much better? Someone said to me, well, Bernie's mastering chain may need updating, upgrading. And Chris, I said, but Chris's is the same. No, it's a different. He has a different board, and whatever he's doing,
okay,
to get to the lathe.
Yeah,
and that's what I heard. And if he's got a tape machine in his room, I don't know. I just know what I hear.
Yeah. No, I'm impressed. I mean, a lot. I think Chris Bellman and the whole Bernie Grunman Mastering Studio, they have some fine stuff. I mean, it's a lot of this stuff is fantastic. And I mean, of course, we know that Analog Productions uses Bernie, Classic Records use Bernie, and his over the years. So I mean, that's continuing. It's nice to see. I just find it interesting that Grunman didn't know about he wasn't contacted about the Michael Jackson anniversary edition. No one contacted him.
That's the weirdest thing. Okay. I don't know whether you saw what went on my old website, but I got a press release, and I'm telling you, I didn't hallucinate it. There's no reason why I would hallucinate it. The original press release from the Jackson family, from somebody, said Bernie Grunman mastered it. That's what it said. And then I contacted MoFi to ask, I said, does that mean that Bernie cut the lacquers for you for this one title? And then MoFi said to me, no, Bernie's, and I said, are really cutting 40 lacquers for this thing? No, they're working from a copy. They did tell me it was from a copy, which made sense, but I could swear they said a tape copy. As it turns out, they deny that. They said they didn't say tape copy, they just said copy, which explains part of that. And then the next thing I looked at when I went back to that website, it was gone. And so I didn't make it up. I know I didn't make it up, but it doesn't, none of it matters.
I will say I did see that when it first came out, that I saw Bernie's name up there. So what I did is I emailed Bernie, because I've interviewed him before, and I asked him, I said, did you get approached on doing the anniversary edition? And they said no, he had no idea that it was even coming out.
Yeah, well, I think that the Jackson family has done a very poor job with Michael Jackson's catalog, and that's one reason why Quincy Jones sued him.
Damn lawyers, Michael.
The state, and hired me as an expert witness.
Yeah.
And the money I made on that was absolutely stupid. If you watch that video of what happened, it's one of the best things I ever did, because it's true, and I tell the story. And it was, if you want to talk about pressure, that was the most pressure I've ever been under. And I have to say, more pressure than going on stage and opening for the Jam, and opening for television and doing stand-up comedy. That was pressure, but this was more pressure, and it was one of the best experiences of my life, I will say.
So, being a Joni Mitchell fan, One Step, are you going to buy them?
No.
Van Halen.
No, I have the cuts that were done from tape by whoever did it, the first album. I'm not that huge a fan anyway. And Springsteen, look, were never great recordings.
No,
and they'll never be great recordings. And it's just not good.
Well, the Plagent process that makes it a little bit better. I mean, I have the CD box. I think it sounds fantastic. I also I don't know if you saw my last video a few weeks ago with Mazzy. We're giving away a Nebraska Vinyl Me Please Nebraska album. It sounds fantastic. It was obviously cut from the Plagent process masters, and I just think that sounds great. But that was recorded in his bedroom on a cassette tape.
Yeah, and look, it depends. It doesn't matter where you do it. It could be pure if it's done on a cassette from pure, just simple chain. It could sound great, but his records generally don't sound good. And,
Born in the USA, it's like sounds like it was made for radio play, made for FM play.
It's terrible. And so why you would want to do a one step for that? But the funniest one step is actually Bridge Over Troubled Water, because
I have that one. Be nice.
no, I'm going to tell you the truth is, and this was told to me by Roy Harley, who engineered that.
Mm-hmm.
After the classic records version came out, which sounds very good, cut from the tape.
By who? Was it Brenman that mastered that?
That was Bernie, yeah. And I have the 45 RPM single-sided version of that.
Wow.
The only track that only sounds okay is Bridge Over Troubled Water. It sounds okay. It doesn't sound as good as the rest. And Roy Halley said to me, well, Michael, the master of that track, sometimes tracks are pulled out of running masters and they use them for other things. That track disappeared in 1970 or 71. So what's on that tape that was used to cut the new one step and the classic records version, it doesn't sound right. Something sounds wrong. So one guy, and when I wrote about that, MoFi was hated me for saying that. They admitted it eventually. But what's really funny is I got an email from a reader. He said, you know why that's a great reissue, the MoFi, the one step, because finally you can hear that they really didn't use strings, that it was synthesizers.
What?
Yeah. I said, no, what you're hearing is the fact that this tape is not great.
It's a lot of hiss on that album. I feel there's a lot of tape hiss.
Not the whole album, but
but parts of it.
The track Celia, that's very bright sounding, and, and some of that stuff was done in different locations. It's a very variable sounding record.
It is, yeah.
I think if you want to hear that really sounding great, find a 1A original Columbia, 1A, 1B, or 1C in clean shape, and that will give you a Bridge Over Troubled Water that will change your life.
I mean, was it recorded? Maybe it wasn't recorded too well either. I mean, it must have been recorded very quietly. I don't know. There's something to that album. It just doesn't give you that punch, or the dynamics.
That song's got everything.
But the rest of it,
it's mixed, because some of it was done. Some of it, there's a live track on there, and it's variable all over the place. So, however, there's no master tape left for Paul Simon's first solo album that was done in Jamaica. And the best version of that is, if you can find an original of that, it's phenomenal.
Oh, yeah? Okay. Great.
But every other version, not so good. And Still Crazy After All These Years, the one step is not so good. For whatever. It's just not so good. Yeah. Find an original.
That's one thing with all this DSD gate, Santana's Nebraska's album in the aftermarket never really went down too much in terms of value, even after all of this.
Because that's a great. I don't care whether that was done on a wire recorder. That record sounds great. Although again, I think that's great. It's the best version I've heard of that. It's great. I brought that to shows to play for people. I have a test pressing they sent me. I probably could retire on the test pressing, but I don't sell those things. My wife, when I die, she'll sell them, or if she goes first, then I'll sell them. But or I'll give it to Malachi, whatever. But that one sounds fantastic, and it's good. That's all. What can you say?
And then the Bill Evans was actually cut from the analog as well. So I mean, that was one that wasn't DSD. So that's worth a hell of a lot of money too.
That sounds good too. Yeah. Actually, I have Chad was going to reissue that, and he cut test pressings for that record, and I have a test pressing of that.
Oh,
that's
beautiful.
Collectible. I have a test pressing. He was going to do the Allman Brothers live at the Fillmore East.
Love that album.
And he cut it and did a few test pressings, and I have one of those. And then MoFi got it away from him for some reason. I don't know what happened there, but yeah, I've got a whole bunch of stuff like that. That one day.
When I have a lot of Nautilus. You ever experience the whole Nautilus label? For me, I guess
some are good and some are bad.
Yeah, I have the I have the Nautilus. Not bad. I think they were half speed mastered, most of them.
Some are good. Now the direct disc ones are really interesting. So I'm going to post on my YouTube channel a segment of the direct disc Derek and the Dominoes.
Are you going to be Dizzy or going to be Michael Fremer? I just need to make sure we know who it is.
It'll be me. So it'll be a segment of the original pressing cut by George Piros.
Oh, nice.
And a segment of the direct disc. I don't know who cut those. And a copy of the MoFi. And I won't say which is which, and people can decide.
I look forward to that. It'll be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's The MOFI, that is pretty good. It was never a great recording, but it's actually a much better recording than it sounded like when it first came out. That's an interesting thing. A lot of records that didn't sound good in the 60s or the early 70s when I didn't have a great system and most people didn't have a great system. And everything turned into mush.
Yeah.
Now the turntables are much better. The cartridges are much, everything's better in the playback side of it. And you can take out records that you think, and that was never so good. Whoa, that's always fun.
Yeah. I have a lot of original Canadian pressings. My dad was a big record collector. That's how I really got into it. So I've got a lot of first edition Canadian pressings. I think they probably use the same metal for the US pressings, and they sound great. I mean, obviously they're only like 120 gram vinyl. I mean, it's very thin, you know, it's very, but I mean, it's fine. But I like these Canadian pressings that I have. I have a lot. I have a garage full. I really enjoy them.
Yeah. Some of the vinyl was noisy of the Canadian pressings I got a hold of.
Well, I think some of it, there was a lot of these where actually there was a plant, and there still is, but I think years ago there was an actual pressing plant in Canada, in Toronto somewhere. So that might have been the reasons they would just use, sent the metal up or whatever they did and pressed that way, I would assume.
Or they could send up stampers. They could send
stampers, yeah. Okay, so today, I had for the last year, I was hoping that an audiophile company would have reissued this, but Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon 50th anniversary, same age as me, is basically being released as a box set. Have you had a look at that?
No, because the last mastering of it wasn't very good.
That was, which one are you talking about? The one that was done by the Pink Floyd records because Grundman cut it just basically from a file that Guthrie gave him.
There was also a version that was cut concurrently with Kevin Gray and Doug Sachs.
Doug Sachs. That's the 30th anniversary EMI.
Yeah. And what's interesting about that is I had a RTI test pressing of that, which is extremely rare because they didn't end up pressing the record. And I can't find it. I can find all the copies of Dark Side of the Moon that I have here, which are manifold, and I can't find that. I played it for somebody. I don't think he stole it from me. I'm
assuming that if you were to choose your best sounding Dark Side of the Moon, would it be the original UK version?
I have a UK, I have a fifth master UK version, which people say is a really good one. Fifth lacquer. I have that. I think the MOFI sounds fantastic. The original MOFI. So
there's three different cuts of the MOFI. There's I think it was a 1980, 1981 or 82, and then they did the UHQR. Do you have all of them?
I don't have the UHQR. I'm not that big a fan of that record. It's okay. It's an okay record. It's fun. But if I pull mine out, would you be able to tell me which one it was?
No.
Then I won't pull it out. But you want to hear a funny Pink Floyd story? So when the Wall concert, when they were touring with the Wall, I went to see that at the LA Sportatorium with my friend Steve, who did Tron. He directed Tron and wrote Tron, and we were looking for we went that just for fun, and so we go and we're sitting there, and the show starts with fireworks indoors. And I turned to him, I said, this is absolutely crazy. They're shooting off fireworks indoors? They can have a fire. So about 10 minutes into the show, all of us, Gilmore was playing guitar, and, they didn't have a lot of computers in those days. They had two Revox tape recorders on the stage running all kinds of stuff. All of a sudden, a piece of flaming there's like a curtain that goes above where there's a curtain blocking you from seeing the lighting guys that are on a scaffold above. A piece of that flaming curtain comes down and hits him in the arm, and he goes, "This is not part of the show. Stop the show." The show stops, the lights come on, and there's the smoke filling the place, and they evacuate everybody, and they had these big fans there for some reason. I don't know whether they had them for emergencies or whatever. They blew the place out. We came back in, sat down, and the show started again.
Wow.
And that was, but more amazing is when I ran into Guthrie, James Guthrie. He did a Pink Floyd thing at Princeton University some years ago, where they played a quad mix that he had done, and I was invited to that. And I brought that up to him, and he said, yes, that was amazing, because I was there, mixing. And he said, so when we were doing the rehearsals, for this tour, which is a very complicated tour because they were building a wall behind them, all the stuff that went on popping out of the wall. So when we do the rehearsals in the UK, we're doing these rehearsals, and Gilmour didn't like something. He said, "Oh, stop the show. And this is in the rehearsals. And Guthrie would say, "Listen, man, you can't stop the show like that, because doing these rehearsals, we have to go through all of these rigmaroles to get everything working right. Just play through it, because when we're doing the real show, you're going to have to play through mistakes. You cannot stop." So he said they're at this show at the Sportatorium, and he's at the board, and he's not really paying attention to anything but the meters and the board. All of a sudden, he hears Gilmour say, "Stop the show!"
I guess Gilmour liked the studio better then, right? He could just stop and start when he wanted. Didn't like it live, or
everybody likes when you're rehearsing and you can stop something when it's not going well.
Of course, we all want perfection, right? We want to sound as good as possible.
Yes.
So 50th
we're doing this whole Zoom thing. Oh, I don't like how this is going. We got to stop and start it over again. Okay.
Why? No, it's great, man. This has been fantastic.
Just kidding.
50th anniversary. Okay, so they've got the Dolby Atmos mix. This has all been mastered by Guthrie, remastered by Guthrie again. I couldn't find on here though who cut the vinyl. It
what was it mastered from? What was it mastered? Was it the original tape? Was it?
Doesn't say here. It says remastered. Hang on. So LP1 remastered original studio album. It says here, right in the.
That tells you nothing.
Okay, remastered in 2023 by James Guthrie. Mixed by Andy Jackson, if you're looking at the live Wembley Empire Pool album. But I'm assuming here, I don't know who cut it. It doesn't say who cut the vinyl. Andy Jackson at Tube Mastering could have, I'm assuming. I don't know. I don't see Bernie Grenman's name anywhere. I don't think he was part of this.
You have to spend the money and get it and open it up and see if there's anything on the intergroove area that tells you.
So if you want to buy the box, $247 pre-order right now on Amazon. If you want to just buy the single LP, you can get the Dark Side of the Moon live at the Wembley 74. They're going to release that first time on vinyl.
That might be good.
Or you can just get the Dark Side of the Moon album. So, I mean, whatever you want to get, it could be all right. And then, I don't know.
I always say, if you already have it, like recently,
I have too many of them. I'm not going to buy it. Just put it that way. I'm not going to buy it. I'm not going to buy it to do a review on my YouTube channel. Go, hey guys, look at this 50th anniversary. I think I have really good copies myself. I don't need another one.
I don't either, but I'm hopeful that young people, if they don't have a copy and they want a brand new copy, they can have that, whatever, And
I mean, that's been sitting. I've been hearing, it's sold 40 million units. I mean, it's sold 40 million units in the last 10 years. I've heard it sold 40 million units. So I don't even know what the real number is.
Look, it's a classic record.
Classic. So we'll see how that goes on. And there's a book you can buy, a separate book with pictures and fun stuff on that.
Let me ask you this question.
What
do you think is the attraction? What is it about that record that makes it? Because when it first came out, I remember it was the yawn. It was fun. The sound effects were great, and
well, it was a start of that Moog synthesizer, right? Abbey Road got that Moog synthesizer that the Beatles used for Abbey Road in a couple of the tracks there, and of course,
that was 69. That was 60.
I know. So they preempted the Pink Floyd with that. You're absolutely right.
By a lot, and of course, Wendy Carlos preempted them all, and. But it's not the synthesizer that makes.
No, it's not. I don't know what it is. What is it? It's the journey. So I guess if you're growing up in college, you would get really high and put on Dark Side of the Moon and just feel all fucked up, and that would be it.
There were a lot of things you could play and get high. Aside from, you had a wide range of things.
Led Zeppelin was a good one. I don't. Yeah, but yeah. I don't know. That might be the attraction. I don't know. That's what it is. Or you could press play on your Dark Side of the Moon just as a lion roars and watch Wizard of Oz, and it's supposed to line up. Apparently, I've never tried that.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
That's really. I believe that one every day. Exactly. So anyway, I'm a pretty big fan of Pink Floyd. I don't listen to the Dark Side of the Moon every day. I actually Wish You Were Here.
The first album.
You were gonna show me when you did your alter ego as Dizzy. What are you gonna show me?
Yeah, and I'll show you another thing too. So I have the original Dark Side of the Moon. This is the original Dark Side.
I love that. I'm actually jealous right now. That's cool.
I don't know. This should be reissued. This is a Keith Relf produced album by the group Medicine Head, and it's the original Dark Side of the Moon, and it came out on Polydor. And I'm not filling it. There it is.
Beautiful.
So
you keep it in the original paper sleeve. I'm surprised you haven't. It's not.
No, it's the original sleeve, but it's a
that poly inside of it.
It's not really poly. It's another material that's perfectly fine. I'll transfer it over to something else. You know, you only have so much time in
I know.
Aren't all your records? Don't you have outer sleeves on all your records? I don't, and
I do.
I don't. I have too many. If I did that, the amount of space that would be lost.
Yeah.
You know, as it is, I'm out of space. I am literally records all over the floor.
What's Mrs. Fremer say about your man cave? She must not come down there any longer.
We have 4 dogs. Okay.
I know. I've talked to you on the phone. I hear them barking.
So that is kind of a trade. I love the dogs. I love the dogs more than she loves the records, but there's a trade-off. And you know, I tell her, you know, you should come down here. I have to show you certain records that are really, really collectible that you should see, because like I've got a rubber sole that George Martin signed for me.
Oh, nice. That's nice.
Nice. To Michael. I have a 2-page letter. People who've seen a lot of my videos go, there he goes again, but okay, not everybody's seen it. It's just like saying, there they go, reissuing that again. Well, not everybody has the record. So Brian May sent me a 2-page handwritten letter thanking me for the radio commercials that I produced for the
You did a video on that. I remember watching that a long time ago.
I show up all the time. You know, what can you know that somebody so Mazzy did a thing about record cleaning yesterday.
Okay.
And I criticized. I went on there because this woman that is an archivist that was doing this with them. First of all, they're drinking martinis and having fun. I don't think that you clean records when you're drunk, and I think and if you're going to handle turgitol and other chemicals, you shouldn't be.
Yeah, that's scary. You can
And I said so. So this guy says, of course, Fremer didn't apologize for his sexist comment. And I said to the guy, so if you criticize a woman, it's sexist? Actually, your comment is sexist, and you should apologize to me. But whatever.
This happened yesterday?
Yeah. Oh. Yesterday was a crazy day for me. Absolutely crazy. It wasn't supposed to be what went on yesterday. But
oh, wow.
My troubles did not seem to go our way. They were actually happening yesterday.
I got a Humming Guru cleaner from one of my viewers. I was lucky enough for them to send me one, which is kind of great. Just distilled water works fine.
That's right. I just think if you just want to, I've got a Kale audio here that I'm about to publish a review of.
Okay.
I bought it, and the Kermis thing is great too. It's another step if you really want to get all the ooze and goo out of the records that's baked in. If you've been cleaning records with a regular cleaning fluid and vacuuming, you're not getting everything out, and this thing really pulls it all out. The next experiment I have to do is clean a record on the Kale audio machine for 6 minutes, and then do the Kermis thing and see if I get more goo out, or whether that gets rid of all of it. I don't know.
Does that machine have you can put more than one record on yours, right? Like it's a 5 or 6 or something like that.
Which
with the record machine that you have that cleans the records? There's one that you have that has like 5 or 6 records at one time.
No, the Kale audio has only one.
Oh, it's only one. Okay.
Kermis has 4. It's got
that's the one.
It's got a slot for a 7-inch, a 10-inch, and 2. But you don't want to the ones with the spit that put the records this far.
I would just do one at a. I wouldn't put 4 in at a time like that.
No. I wouldn't either, but what I'm going to try, I have an ISO machine here. ISO, I think it's the brand, and I'm going to get to that in a couple of days and compare that to the Claudio machine and see. But it's a spit rotation kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
I would not put them close together.
Okay, so I mean, you said you had this big thing about cleaning. Do you use chemicals? Was that the issue with everything? What was going on?
I don't. I have the Claudio machine. I have the audio desk here, which is, it turns out, that was the first machine that used cavitation. That was a revolution to me when I got that machine and bought that machine. But it turns out, and Kermis is right about this, it is not an ultrasonic machine. It has a cavitation membrane. It's got a cavitation generator in there that agitates the water and produces the bubbles, but they're not at an ultra high frequency. And it works okay. If you play that and clean a record with that, you'll hear it. It's better.
Yeah.
But these ultrasonic machines are another step better. So,
well, and this is the thing. I mean, I had Tom Ford on from Better Records not long ago. I don't know if you caught that interview I had with him.
didn't see it, and
I know you know Tom, but anyways, I think part of, I mean, he basically, I think part of his process would be the cleaning these records as well. I mean, he's going to pick, the best sounding one of 100 that he picks of, let's say, Steely Dan's Asia, A, B, or AA Matrix, and that's the one that he sells for $700.
right. Well, if you want to pay $700 for that record, be my guest. I would not listen. If he goes through 100 records and picks the best sounding one, that's fine. But that's one thing. That's one service that he offers. But when he goes on and says, Acoustic Sounds, Analog Productions has never released a good sounding reissue, what he's saying is George Marino, Ryan Smith, Bernie Grunman, Kevin Gray, Chris Bellman, and Doug Sachs, some of the greatest mastering engineers.
Those are the top guys right there.
Have never cut a good sounding record. That's what he's saying.
Yeah.
And that's absurd. And so if you take that guy seriously on that level, then that's your choice. But that's just not right. That is not the right thing to say.
No, I understand. I mean, I enjoyed my conversation with him, and sure. His business model, I mean, really, if you don't like the record, take the thing back. I don't know. That's fine to me.
I have no problem with it, but let's be real. And then he says, if you really want to hear what these records are supposed to sound like, you have to get the originals when they were cut on a tube system. That gives you the big space. And then when you hear these reissues done on a solid state setup, it's not the same. You need those originals, and I'll sell you one for $800. Then the Electric Recording Company comes out and does all these reissues from an all tube system, a really nice tube system, and those are no good. So the hypocrisy is enormous.
There you go. Okay, we want to talk about this. I was telling you about record sales in the U.S. Billboard came out the other day and said that U.S. record sales have stalled. That basically in 2022, Luminate year-end music report notes that vinyl sales in 2022 rose a mere 4.2% over the previous year. What do you think of that?
Well, the percentage as a statistic is a very receptive thing. It looks like this. This is what it looks like starting about 10 years ago. It looks like this. It's very impressive. And so the number of records sold was huge this past year. In fact, the week before Christmas was the biggest week of record sales since 1991.
Okay, but here's a trivia. Who do you think sold the most records last year? Who was it? Which artist?
Taylor Swift or whatever.
So Taylor Swift's Midnight topped the year. She sold 945,000 copies. Her entire catalog since 91, 1.7 million she sold. Amazing.
Yeah. And people say, well, they don't play those records. They hang them on the wall. I don't buy that.
And stop right there, because here's another thing. I want to talk about this because this is an interesting stat too that's part of this. So listen to this. So here they were also saying that pretty much that 50, and this is an interesting one. I bet you this is wrong, but 50% of consumers who had bought vinyl in the previous 12 months don't even own a record player. I think that's bullshit.
I think it's bullshit too. I don't buy it, and I don't buy it for a lot of reasons. Who are they asking? How do they ask? Who are they asking? All these people. How do they get that statistic? I think. Look, I believe in statistics, and I believe in.
Well, that's like Nielsen's TV ratings years ago. How did they figure that out? I don't get that.
I believe in statistical analysis, and I believe in statistics more than I believe in anecdotal evidence, which is like when I grew up. If you ask me what the religious composition is of the United States, I would say 95% of the people in America are Jews, because I grew up in this incredible Jewish neighborhood. But that's anecdotal evidence. Statistical evidence is something else. And I believe in statistical evidence, but I don't believe that number for a minute. You go into record stores and see who's buying. It's mostly kids, and they're buying records and to play them. I know that.
Well, you went to Oslo?
I was in Oslo. I was invited to turntable setup seminars at a store called Big Dipper. It's a big record store. And this record store is mostly new records and mostly records of groups I never heard of. And it looked like a record store that I worked in the 60s. That's what it looked like. It was big. It was hopping and humming. And it was all, I can send you a picture. It was all kids buying the records. So I don't believe that statistic.
And I saw that this Christmas, my friend over here in Vancouver owns a record store, and I went in there around Christmas. Lined up out the door, the demographic was probably mid-20s.
Yeah, if you would open your mouth and said, "Hey, how many of you just buy records and don't have turntables?" That'll look
Well, who's
like,
going to buy a record and not play the effing thing? That doesn't make
okay.
any
There
sense.
were some Taylor Swift
50% of people that bought records don't have a record player. It makes no sense.
You know what? We've been hearing the naysayers about this. I've been hearing the naysayers since the day I started saying there's going to be a big vinyl resurgence. And I started that in the 80s when the CDs were first coming out. I said, there's going to be I don't know how long it's going to take, but it will come back, because the idea that books are going to go away because we have a way to, read a book on a flat screen, that books are going to go away is absurd. A book experience is much different than reading it on.
It's the tangible experience of getting a record. Who wants to? You don't read liner notes when you stream it on Spotify. I like the tangibility of this.
And what do you have? What do you have if you stop your subscription? You have nothing. What do you have if the company goes out of business? You have nothing. You have nothing.
And that's actually true. Even if I read somewhere where iTunes, right? If basically you years ago you'd buy the album, you might not even own that album at some point. It might disappear from your library because there's some sort of contract agreement in there where it could just disappear on you.
That's right. They could take it away. And I know the experience I have, and I hang out with a lot of young people, which is one of the fun things I do as young people. I hang out with people your age and or a little younger. And these are guys who like you.
So you're saying I'm fun? That's cool. Thank you.
Like you in the demographic. Let's let it go. So
I can't get any compliments from you, but I'm trying. It's okay.
It's a shtick. Come on.
That's right.
If I really thought that, I wouldn't spend the hour with you,
I know that.
But I can pull a record out, and I know where I bought it. I know what it brings back all these memories.
I know.
And I tell young people, I said, you want to have that in 40 or 50 years. And if you love music and it's an important thing to you, you want to have that experience where you can pull it out, the record I'm talking about, and play it and know where you bought it and what you were doing. It all comes back. It all comes back. And if you stream it, you have nothing.
Nothing.
And don't regret 50 years. And people get it, and kids get it. And I hang out with these guys. I go to their house in Williamsburg. There's a wall of records. There's a nice turntable, a nice amplifier, a big pair of speakers, televisions in the other room. This is where they hang out. They play records. They smoke weed. They eat food like the 70s. And yeah, it's great. And I always predicted it would come back.
And that's like my experience. I was 13 years old in 1986, and I had $20 allowance. I lived in Winnipeg, Manitoba. It was January, February, minus 50 degrees. I mean, Celsius and Fahrenheit are basically match up at minus 40. So it was effing cold out. Took the bus, went to the local record store, and picked up a Revolver original Canadian version mono. And I still have it to this day. And I remember on the bus. Back then it was like $8 Canadian. Canadian. So
all right. So that's another fight I had with somebody who said the record companies are screwing it up. They charge way too much for their records. It's $30 for a record. That's absurd. Yeah. I say to them, a $3.98 record in 1966 would cost $30 today because of inflation.
Think about it.
That's think twice about buying a record for $30 because that's $3.98.
In 1966, my grandparents bought a beautiful house in Winnipeg at the time, in-ground pool, 2,500 square feet, a two-story house with a finished basement for $50,000. I mean, that's 1966.
That's right.
So yeah,
I bought a car in 1990 for $50.
You still have it?
I fixed it up. And I kept it it was a Saab, and I fixed it up. It was in a woman's backyard. It was sitting on crates.
Yeah.
I went back there, and she said, my son was going to fix this car up. It's been sitting here for 5 years. I want to get rid of it. I said, all right, I will try to start it and drive it out of here. And you have to let me use your bathroom and give me a cup of coffee or whatever. She says, okay, I'll give you 4 days and we'll do that. And so I got the tires for it. Well, first I got it started. I rebuilt the carburetor. I checked the brakes were okay, and I got the thing started. I tuned it up, got the tires on it, and drove it out. And she was so grateful. And it almost didn't make it up the Route 3 hill. It was like chugging along. But as I drove it, it got its power back, and it was really a fast car, and I drove it for 2 or 3 years, and then I sold it to somebody. And I have another one that I kept forever. So
you can almost have had a Saab story there.
I've got so many. I still drive a Saab.
There you go. So I'm going to leave it at that. I think that was I wanted to thank you for your time. I'm going to look forward to some of your reviews of your the different. I guess you're doing. What's your next video going to be on?
So let me say that the tracking angle that I left I left Analog Planet, and I left it. It didn't leave me, and I started this new website. It's going great. It's never easy to start a new thing, but it's doing very well. Trackingangle.com. Check it out. We've got some great. I've got 11 great writers. I've got writers from all over the world, really smart people. Yeah. We don't indulge in clickbait. We try to give you really interesting.
I enjoy the website. It's some good stuff to read. It's really good.
And the YouTube channel is growing pretty well. Yeah. And I don't do as many videos as I used to do. For one reason is I really want to emphasize the written stuff and grow the website. There was a conflict. I had 52,000 subscribers to my YouTube.
I know, I was amazing. It was incredible.
Yeah, and I'm up to almost 12,000 now, and it's slow, but it'll build. And that was because there was a lot of good content on there, and I had a lot of good adventures. And I went to Abbey Road. And I did all kinds of good stuff over those years. It's been a really great thing that vinyl has done for me. Yeah, this is going to be good too, but it takes away from the website to a certain degree, and I really want to grow this website. And because I own it and I make the money from it, and I appreciate the advertisers and I appreciate the people coming to go to the website. And now you can post comments, which is good. You couldn't at first. We're improving it and enhancing it. And I don't recommend changing jobs when you're my age. It's stressful, but it's worked out really well for me, and it's an exciting thing. And I've got
what they say is that if you love what you do, it's not a job. So clearly, you don't have a job.
Yeah, it's a job in some ways. Setting up just a cartridge, it was a lot of work, and I'm setting up another cartridge. It's a lot of work because I actually listen to the stuff I review. There are some people that don't.
Oh my God, that's funny.
They just write it,
Well, thank you so much. We'll do this again, and I don't know, maybe next later on this year, see where things fall.
And I was completely honest with you. I held back nothing, and I don't regret it.
This is a good one.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Sure. Well, enjoy your music. What do you got? What speakers you got back there?
Those are the Sonus favorites.
I'll tell you one last thing. So I was lucky enough to meet Franco Serblin, the guy that founded Sonus Faber, and I went to his house, and this was a very elegant man. This was a guy you can tell by his products. I mean, he was an aesthete, and I went to his house, and he was on a chaise lounge, wearing a pair of white shorts, white sneakers, and a white T-shirt, and looking like he was, posing for Gentleman's Quarterly. And I said to him, Franco, I could come in here wearing a tuxedo and you would still look more elegant than me. And I hate you for that.
Aw. Well, thank you so much. We'll see you again very soon.
Sure.
Take care.
Nice talking to you. Okay.
All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Don't spread any more rumors, okay?
I don't spread rumors.
Get me in trouble.
All right.